Hello guys, welcome back. Now today, I'm going to be doing my 2019 NHL goaltending tier list. Now the amount of quality goaltenders right now in the NHL is absolutely insane. But who do I see as the best goaltenders right now in the NHL, and where does each goaltender rank in my tier list? Watch till the end to find out. Now, just like my other tier list videos, we'll be putting all these players in the specific NHL tiers. Now, like before, we will have tiers, but now I have 4 tiers instead of 5 tiers, condensing it a little bit more and having it more of an even playing field. We're going to start out with average, work our way up to good, then to elite, and then the top tier, that being franchise. Now here are the faces of every single goaltender we'll put into the tier list in today's video. 28 different goaltenders in 4 different tiers. Just like the other tier list videos though, if there are any goaltenders that aren't on this tier list that you think I should go over, let me know down in the comments down below and I'll let you guys know where I think that goaltender would be in this tier list. Now to make sure that every year's tier list, or I guess rankings, is a lot different, I go on this past season, not the year before, not going into this next season. These are the goaltenders who I think were the best, or I guess the most average, this past season, in the 2018-2019 season. Now, starting out the tier list at the average tier, for my first average goaltender last season, I have Carter Hutton. Of the Buffalo Sabres, currently their starter for them, and when it comes to Carter Hutton, he had a horrendous goal saved above average last season at a -13. It was not good whatsoever. There were spots in that whole season when he was good and good enough. When Buffalo had that 10-game winning streak, he was freaking fantastic. But the rest of the year, and when it definitely mattered, Hutton was just kind of average at best. Now moving on to the second average goaltender in the average tier, I have Connor Hellebuyck. Now Hellebuyck with the Winnipeg Jets this past season was kind of more average to say the least. The year before that, the 17-18 season, he was actually pretty brilliant, but last season with Winnipeg, there was more to be desired. He had a -6 goals saved above average, which is not good whatsoever, and just throughout the year, I wasn't as impressed with him. He had his moments, but overall was not that great. Now moving on to the next goaltender in my average tier, I have Devan Dubnyk. Of course, start with the Minnesota Wild. And when it comes to the Minnesota Wild, they've needed that #1 goaltender. Dubnyk used to be that, but right now is just not that type of goaltender. He had a decent save percentage at a .913 this past season, but was very inconsistent and overall had a horrendous goal save above average, a -19, which was one of the worst in the league last season. So he really did not perform up to standards. He's getting older right now, and so is Minnesota to an extent. Now moving on to my next goaltender in the average tier, I have one of my boys, Jonathan Quick. And it just kind of pains me to put him here because if you guys watch my favorite players video, you know he is my favorite goaltender in the NHL. But this past season was average at the very, very best. He was an under .900 save percentage, which even on the bound LA Kings is still pretty terrible. He had a -23 goals saved above average, which in the NHL was the worst by far. Now moving on to somewhat the same situation, going on to my next average goaltender, I have Martin Jones. And with the San Jose Sharks, he's one of my favorite players that I do like quite a bit too. So when it comes to him, I kind of had to be honest with myself and say, hey, he had a pretty terrible year. And the stats do back that up. He had an under .900 save percentage, which even for his regular season standards is not the greatest whatsoever. He, just like Jonathan Quick, had a -23 goals saved above average. And when it comes to San Jose, while they aren't the best defensive team, to have those kind of numbers is pretty horrendous. Now moving on to my last goaltender in the average tier, I have former Calgary Flames starter Mike Smith. Now when it comes to Mike Smith, the problems that he have been documented to the full extent. He does not have that great of a 5-hole, he's kind of floppy, especially at that age right now. He's very old and definitely not as good as he used to be. He had a -8 goals saved above average, which obviously the Calgary Flames, who had a great year, isn't that impressive. Now finally going on to the good tier of NHL goaltenders, and starting this off is Arizona Coyotes technically starter Antti Raanta. Now I have always been a good Antti Raanta fan. I've always liked him quite a bit. This past season when he was healthy, he put up a 4 goals saved above average, which is very, very solid. And when it comes to Raanta, again, I like his play style. When he was healthy a season ago, he put up some fantastic numbers. With Arizona though, when it comes to Darcy Kemper, he kind of took over the show this past season, almost making the playoffs, but when healthy, I think he's a good goaltender at the very least. Now moving on to my second goaltender in the good tier, I have present and future starter for the Philadelphia Flyers, Carter Hart. Now, when it came to Carter Hart, he was called up to the NHL right out of the blue, and he wasn't even putting up the greatest AHL numbers, so I was kind of reluctant to say that it was a good move, but something just worked, and with a snap of the finger, Carter Hart became this very, very good NHL goaltender. Put up some solid save percentage numbers, wasn't the greatest in goals saved above average with a -4, but still overall a good goaltender, and likely an elite one in the future. Now, moving on to the next goaltender in the good tier, I have Chicago Blackhawks legend Corey Crawford. Now, when it comes to Chicago, they really do depend on a guy like Corey Crawford. A couple of seasons ago, put up some fantastic numbers, but due to vertigo, has battled health, and that's been a big reason why he's kind of gone down in people's lists. I think when he is healthy, he's a good NHL goaltender, and at the very least, a pretty productive one. Now, advancing on to the next goaltender in the good tier, I have David Rittich of the Calgary Flames. Now, Rittich was a fantastic story for Calgary this past season. I think one of the main reasons why they made the playoffs was his fantastic play. Put up some great save percentage numbers and also had some great goals saved above average. Had a +7, which is absolutely amazing for a goal saved above average. When it came to Rittich, he was very impressive. Wasn't crazy flashy, but got it done most every night. And for Calgary, that is exactly what they needed. Now, moving on to one of the legends in this tier list, I have one of my boys, the King Henrik Lundqvist. Now, when it comes to Henrik Lundqvist, he's obviously past his prime, he is a lot older, but can still be a very solid and decent NHL goaltender if need be, and the New York Rangers obviously need that. When it came to Lundqvist, he put up some decent save percentage numbers, but was relatively solid in the goals saved above average. Had a +3, which for a guy that age is actually pretty impressive. Now, moving on to the sixth player in the good tier, I have Vancouver Canucks starter Jacob Markstrom. Now, Markstrom, in my opinion, is the most underrated Vancouver Canucks player. Has a big, big impact for them on a relatively bad defense. His save percentage numbers are the flashiest, but again, with that defense, it's obviously not the greatest, but his goal saved above average is still very, very solid. Having a 3 goal saved above average with that defense on Vancouver is actually pretty amazing. Now, moving on to the 7th goaltender in the good tier, I have the Detroit Red Wings starter for a very long time, Jimmy Howard. Now, Jimmy Howard is obviously a lot older, is not in his prime really whatsoever anymore, but still has decent save percentage numbers, and on that terrible Detroit defense, man, that's absolutely insane. Had a +7 goal saved above average, which is amazing compared to a lot of NHL goaltenders in the league right now. And when it comes to Jimmy Howard, again, he's not the flashiest guy, he's not one of those big giant names, but is good enough, especially for the Detroit Red Wings. Now, moving on to the next goaltender in the good tier, I have Vegas Golden Knights starter Marc-Andre Fleury. Now, this one will be a little bit controversial because some people might say that he's an elite or even franchise goaltender, but last year when it came to Vegas, that was not the case. Now, I love Marc-Andre Fleury. Vegas is my 3rd favorite team, so when it comes to Vegas, I know what I'm talking about. He had a -2 goals saved above average, which was not the greatest. He had a .913 save percentage, which was also not the greatest. Yes, put up a lot of wins, but wins don't really matter whatsoever in the league anymore, like it ever did really. And when it came to Marc-Andre Fleury, he had those amazing playoffs going to the Stanley Cup final, but this past season, it just wasn't completely there, and I guess the magic wasn't there either. Now, moving on to Bunchy Jerk starter Peter Mrazek, he's the next goaltender in the good tier, and deservedly so. And Mrazek is one of the more underrated goaltenders in the NHL, especially for what he did last season with Carolina. Now, when it came to Carolina's defense, obviously that factors into it. They have a fantastic and supreme defense on all fronts, both offensively and defensively. But Mrazek had a sneaky good year. Not this amazing save percentage, but a very good goal save above average. Had an 8 goals against save above average, which is absolutely fantastic. And for Carolina, a team that needed that goaltending, Peter Mrazek will definitely do. And moving on to the next goaltender in the good tier, I have Colorado Avalanche future starter Philipp Grubauer. Now, Philipp Grubauer had a solid season, having a .917 save percentage. One of the main reasons why Colorado was able to make the playoffs was because it was very solid play. And next year being the starter, he'll have a lot more capabilities, and rightfully so. He had a 0 goal saved above average, so pretty much league average. But I think when it came to his save percentage and some of the wins that he did end up getting and some of the clutch saves that he had, made him go up to the good tier, even though he's a lot more closer to average than elite. Now moving on to the last goaltender in the good tier, I have Pittsburgh Penguins starter Matt Murray. Now Matt Murray was maybe the most close goaltender to the elite tier, and I will say that he does have some flaws. That glove side is absolutely weak, no doubting that. But overall, Matt Murray had some very impressive stats. Had a .919 save percentage, which on Pittsburgh defense with Gibson and Jack Johnson is pretty miraculous. And his goal seed above average was a +11, so he put up some fantastic numbers, and while I'm not the biggest fan of him, he definitely gets the job done. Now advancing on to the elite tier of NHL goaltenders, starting us off is Tampa Bay Lightning starter Andrei Vasilevskiy. Now I'm a big fan of the Tampa Bay Lightning, you guys know that, they're my second favorite team, and I also like Vasi quite a bit, but he had a lot more of an average year than people really do think he did. Now he won the Vezina Trophy, and kudos to him, he got that award, that's for sure, but I don't think he really deserved that award. He got a ton of wins, which I think a lot of voters do actually like, but again, the average was kind of sinking in there. And a .925 save percentage, which on a Tampa team that's great defensively, is more the status quo. He had a +0 goal seed above average, which again, is league average. And when it comes to Vasilevskiy, he makes the flashy saves, but has a lot of weak goals in there too. So I think he's more of an average goaltender, even though he's in this elite tier because he just won the Vezina Trophy. Now moving on to my second goaltender in the elite tier, I have Braden Holtbeast of the Washington Capitals. Now obviously as a Stanley Cup champion, I love to see that, but he kind of went under the radar again this past season and still put up some great numbers. Now his save percentage was solid, got it up there, but his goal save above average was also pretty amazing. At a +8, which with the Washington Capitals, who aren't the greatest defensively, I think that's a good accomplishment and just a status quo for how good Holtby has been. Moving on to the third player in the elite tier, and I have Carey Price of the Montreal Canadiens. Now when it comes to Carey Price, when he's on his game, he might arguably be still the best goaltender in the NHL, and he was very, very solid again this past season, having definitely a rebound season, which was definitely needed from him. Didn't have the greatest save percentage, but it was definitely up there. He had a +0 goal saved above average, so more along average in general, but when I saw Montreal Canadiens games, Carey Price was usually a big factor in them winning, and obviously made some clutch saves, as he always does. Moving on to my fourth goaltender in the elite tier, I have one of my boys, Freddie Andersen, on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, Freddie Andersen, Danish-born goaltender, has a lot of work to do behind that Toronto defense. But with .917 save percentage, which for behind Toronto defense is fairly good, and when it came to goal saved above average, had a +9. So overall, Freddie Andersen, I think is one of the best goalies in the NHL right now. If he was on a good defensive team, would have amazing numbers, and probably would have won a Vezina, at least by now. Moving on to my fifth goaltender in the elite tier, I have Stanley Cup champion Jordan Binnington. Whatever has to be said about Jordan Binnington has pretty much already been said. Stanley Cup champion, rookie goaltender, coming in having a great impact. He had a +13 goal saved above average when he played about like 35 NHL games, which is absolutely insane. Put up some great numbers too. And in his time again in the playoffs, he wasn't brilliant, but he was good enough. And obviously with the St. Louis Blues, got the job done. Moving on to my sixth goaltender in the elite tier, I have too good right now, Pekka Rinne. Now, Pekka Rinne has shown some signs of decline, but right now is still one of the better goaltenders in the NHL. This past season had a +9 goal saved above average, and his save percentage was still relatively good. Now, Nashville's defense, one of the best defenses in the NHL. Obviously, you have less work to do, but Pekka Rinne is a guy that makes some flashy saves, but also makes the saves that he needs to make, and one of the best finished goaltenders of all time, if not the best of all time, too. And moving on to my seventh goaltender in the elite tier, I have the Bob man, Sergei Bobrovsky. Now, to put him in the elite tier for his past season performance is a little bit stretching it, but I couldn't help putting Sergei Bobrovsky not in the elite tier at least. Now, he had an average save percentage, had an average goal saved above average, a +0 exactly, so he didn't have this great season at all, but when it came to Columbus, they made the playoffs, got the second round, which was Sergei Bobrovsky getting paid in the offseason is all that matters. Now moving on to the last goaltender in the elite tier, I have Boston Bruins starter Tuukka Rask. Now, when it came to his regular season, I wouldn't have quite said he was an elite goaltender, but the playoffs really did show how good he can be. In the regular season, had a +2 goals saved above average, which is solid, but not this elite tier. Had a decent save percentage, but the playoffs where he really did step up his game, especially versus opponents like Columbus, he was an absolute beast, basically shutting down everything in his path. Now moving on to the franchise tier of NHL goaltenders, the top tier, and right now we have 3 goaltenders left. These 3 guys were the guys I voted as my 3 Vezina Trophy finalists, 1, 2, and 3, and we're going to be counting them down one by one. Now moving on to the first goaltender in the franchise tier, I have my boy Ben Bishop on the Dallas Stars. Now when it came to Vezina finalist goaltenders, it was Vasilevsky, Bishop, and Robin Lehner. Ben Bishop, out of those 3 goaltenders, should have won the Vezina Trophy. Had a .934 save percentage, and even though in limited games compared to some other goaltenders, was absolutely dominant. In the playoffs, showed his dominance once again versus the Nashville Predators, and to some extent the St. Louis Blues. Had a plus 18 goals saved above average, which right now in the NHL, with the way goals are scored, is absolutely ridiculous. Now moving on to my second goaltender in the franchise tier, I have USA stud John Gibson. Now, I would say about until maybe the All-Star break, John Gibson was my #1 guy for the Hart Trophy. Not just for the Vezina Trophy, but for the Hart Trophy. Now, he did go back a little bit in save percentage, and ended up having a .917, but on a pretty underratedly bad Anaheim defense, he really did hold his own against shot after shot. There were too many nights where he faced 50-plus shots and still somehow found a way to win. He had a plus 18 goals saved above average, and that's pretty low for what he was going for throughout the season. He had upwards of like a 20 or 22 goals saved above average. He was really that good. Moving on to the last goaltender and the third goaltender in the franchise tier, I have former New York Islanders goaltender Robin Lehner. And he had a ridiculous season with the Islanders. Before this, nobody really saw him as this elite goaltender. If he did, you were pretty crazy. But he proved himself as one of the best in the NHL this past season. Now the Chicago Blackhawks, but now with the Islanders, he had just a brilliant season overall. Ended up with a .930 save percentage, a plus 11 goals saved above average. One of the best goaltenders in the NHL right now, and with Chicago, should do pretty well too. Now here you go. This is the complete rankings from franchise all the way down to average. All 28 goaltenders in this tier list, all the way down from 1 to 28. This is the complete rankings right here. And again, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, if you want to see any goaltender and my opinions on them, let me know down in the comments down below. Now we're not done just quite yet. With the tier list, I also want to give you guys my top 10 goaltenders right now in the NHL. Now bear in mind, this is heavily influenced on last season, so definitely keep that in mind when it comes to this top 10. But at number 10, I have Tuukka Rask. Number 9, Jordan Binnington. Number 8, Braden Holtby. Number 7, Robin Lehner. Number 6, Andrei Vasilevsky. Number 5, Ben Bishop. Number 4, Frederik Andersen. Number 3, Carey Price. Number 2, Sergei Bobrovsky. And for my best goaltender in the NHL, as of right now, I have Anaheim Ducks starter John Gibson. But of course, with this video, I need to hear your guys' thoughts down those comments down below. So let me know, what do you think about today's tier list? What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? Let me know. And of course, the question on to you. Who do you think are the best goaltenders right now in the NHL? But if you guys want some more Grav videos just like this one, you can click on this card right here to watch my NHL Center complete tier list. But that'll be it for today, guys. If you guys enjoy, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. Again, comment down below your thoughts on my tier list, what you agree with, and what you disagree with, and I'll see you guys in the next video or stream. Goodbye.